Welcome to the 90s, the golden era of hip-hop, a time when rhymes were raw, beats were dope. This was a period. In order to stand out, you had to be something unique. This was the decade that saw hip-hop evolve into a worldwide juggernaut, in a time when hip-hop was packed with a variety of styles. We watched the sound evolve, the rhymes become more sophisticated, with the concepts taking new depths. It was also a period that gave rise to some of the game's most iconic artists and groups, shaping the soundscapes of hip-hop forever.
And right at the heart of this era were the duos, the dynamic partnerships that brought their own unique chemistry, skill, and creativity to the game. These weren't just two rappers sharing the mic. They were a force, amplifying each other's strengths, going back to back, filling in each other's lines and ad-libs, with connections that sometimes seemed telepathic.
Each duo had their own flavor, their own story, and together, they brought a new level of artistry to hip-hop. From gritty street tales to southern funk, from introspective rhymes to hard-hitting party anthems, these pairs had the power to transform words into movements.
Today, we're diving into the art of the duo, exploring the style, synergy, and legacy of the pairs who contributed into turning the 90s into hip-hop's golden era.
As hip-hop moved from the 80s into the golden age of the 90s, two DJ and MC partnerships stood at the very forefront of lyrical evolution: Eric B Rakim and Kool G Rap and DJ Polo. These duos didn't just release great music, they fundamentally changed the way rap was written, delivered, and understood. At a time when the genre was still growing, Rakim and Kool G Rap emerged as two of the most advanced lyricists the culture had ever heard. When Eric B and Rakim dropped their groundbreaking debut Paid in Full in 1987, it was a turning point for hip-hop. With Eric B controlling the turntables and Rakim delivering calm, razor-sharp verses, the duo introduced a new level of complexity to the art of MCing. Rakim's smooth delivery, internal rhyme schemes, and almost mathematical precision on the mic earned him the title The God MC. Their follow-up albums, Follow the Leader, Let the Rhythm Hit 'Em, and Don't Sweat the Technique, further solidified their legacy, influencing generations of MCs including Nas, Jay-Z, Biggie, Eminem, and countless others who studied Rakim's blueprint for lyrical excellence. Meanwhile, Kool G Rap and DJ Polo were carving out their own lane with a harder, street-centered approach to storytelling. Their debut Road to the Riches, 1989, produced largely by Marley Marl, introduced listeners to vivid street narratives delivered with unmatched technical skill. G-Rap's breath control, multi-syllabic rhyme patterns, and cinematic storytelling pushed the boundaries of what rap lyrics could sound like. Albums like Wanted, Dead or Alive, and Live and Let Die only strengthened their reputation, while Kool G Rap's vivid tales of organized crime and street life earned him the title The Godfather of Mafioso Rap. His influence can be heard in artists such as Nas, Raekwon, AZ, Big Pun, and the Notorious B.I.G. Together, these two DJ/MC partnerships helped set the gold standard for lyricism in hip-hop. With Eric B and DJ Polo anchoring the sound while their respective partners pushed the lyrical envelope, the impact of these duos is immeasurable. Decades later, Rakim and Kool G Rap are still widely regarded as two of the greatest MCs to ever touch the microphone, their influence forever woven into the DNA of hip-hop culture. On the flip side of the lyrical heavyweights like Eric B and Rakim and Kool G Rap and DJ Polo, you had Kid and Play, a duo who brought a completely different but equally important energy to late 80s and early 90s hip-hop. Known for their upbeat, feel-good vibe, and signature dance moves, they became ambassadors for the fun, party-driven side of the culture. Their early success gave hip-hop a brighter, more family-friendly spotlight at a time when the genre was still fighting for mainstream acceptance. Kid and Play didn't just make hit records, they made history on the big screen. Their House Party film series became a cultural phenomenon, helping push hip-hop deeper into Hollywood and showcasing the music, fashion, and style of the era in a fresh way. For a moment, they were one of the biggest acts in the culture. But as hip-hop sound shifted in the 90s, with the rise of harder, grittier themes and the dominance of gangsta rap, the industry's direction moved away from the playful style Kid and Play helped pioneer. Still, their impact remains undeniable. They opened doors, brought joy to the culture, and helped prove that hip-hop could cross over into movies, dance, and mainstream entertainment without losing its identity.
As the 80s rolled into the 90s, EPMD remained one of the most consistent and influential forces in hip-hop. Coming off two already classic albums, They carried that momentum straight into the new decade with Business as Usual, 1990, the third in their streak of 3 consecutive historic albums that solidified their legacy. Eric Sermon and Parrish Smith mastered a formula that was unmistakably theirs, laid-back flows delivered with effortless cool, over thick, funky, sample-driven beats that became their signature sound. Their style wasn't just about the music either. EPMD had a whole aura. From the calm confidence in their delivery to the iconic fisherman hats, they embodied a smooth but street energy that made them trendsetters in both fashion and flow. But EPMD's impact didn't stop with their own catalog. They were also key figures in shaping the next wave of 90s talent. Through their hit Squad movement, they introduced the world to new acts who brought fresh energy, innovative rhyme styles, and a completely different approach to visuals and delivery. One of these emerging duos would soon explode onto the scene with a unique sound and image that changed the early 90s landscape, a rapid-fire, tongue-twisting style paired with rugged, animated charisma that took hip-hop by storm.
Under the guidance and cosign of EPMD, a new duo stepped out of the shadows and into the spotlight with a sound and style that nobody was prepared for, DOS FX. Coming through the hit Squad camp, they sharpened their craft around seasoned mentors and developed a look that matched their energy, rugged, underground, hooded up, and authentic to the core. Their rapid-fire delivery and the signature Iggity flow didn't just stand out, it reshaped the early 90s hip-hop landscape. Their debut Dead Serious was an instant cultural shift, fueled by classics like They Want FX, Straight from the Sewer, and Mike Checka. The chemistry between Dre and Scoop was electric, seamlessly bouncing off each other with animated voices, fast cadences, and playful yet hardcore punchlines. And they didn't stop at one moment. Throughout the 90s they followed up with several strong albums that kept their momentum alive, including Straight Up Suicide and Hold It Down, each packed with gritty production and razor-sharp lyricism. Beyond their own work, their features also became legendary. Their features with the likes of Ice Cube and KRS-One remain legendary hip-hop cuts of the era. Everywhere they went, they brought undeniable presence, that unique flow, that contagious energy, that unmistakable vibe. DOS FX didn't just arrive, they exploded onto the scene with originality, pushing the culture forward and inspiring a wave of MCs while still maintaining a style that was 100% theirs. They were trendsetters, innovators, and one of the most important duos to emerge from hip-hop's golden age. As the 80s transitioned into the 90s, Nice and Smooth stood out as one of hip-hop's most charismatic and stylistically unique duos. Greg Nice brought high-energy delivery, catchy hooks, and playful charisma, while Smooth be balanced imperfectly with a calm, poetic, almost silky flow. Their chemistry was natural, a yin and yang blend that worked effortlessly, giving them a sound instantly recognizable from the first bar. With EPMD, Gangstar, and others helping define the hardcore underground lane, Nice and Smooth carved their own path by mixing humor, melody, and street sensibility. Their 1991 album Ain't a Damn Thing Changed became their defining moment, delivering timeless classics like Hip Hop Junkies, Sometimes I Rhyme Slow, and How to Flow. What made them special is how simple they made it look, clever wordplay, memorable choruses, and smooth rhythm patterns that stuck in your head long after the track ended. Their features were equally iconic, especially their unforgettable contributions to Gangstar's DWYCK, a song that still shakes clubs and hip-hop events decades later. Nice and Smooth weren't just about jokes or style, they had skill, originality, and a natural chemistry that allowed them to thrive across eras. They remain one of the most beloved and influential duos of the Golden Age.
Then there was Black Sheep, who emerged in the early 90s with a style that was fresh, witty, and effortlessly cool. As a duo, Dre's and Mr. Long brought a unique balance. Dre's delivered smooth, charismatic vocals with razor-sharp flow, while Mr. Long not only crafted the bulk of their production but also stepped on the mic with his own playful, distinctive delivery. Their chemistry came from this contrast, sharp lyricism paired with creative beats that blended funk, jazz, and quirky sample flips. Their debut album, A Wolf in Sheep's Clothing, 1991, remains one of the era's most inventive and beloved releases. Packed with classics like The Choice Is Yours, Flavor of the Month, and Strobe Light Honey, the project showcased their humor, clever concepts, and undeniable musical range. Their style and presentation also stood out, stylish, animated, and left field in all the right ways, giving them an identity all their own in a crowded Golden Age landscape. Although their catalog isn't as deep as some of their peers, Black Sheep made a lasting mark on 90s hip-hop. Their creativity, originality, and timeless singles continue to influence artists and get heavy love from fans decades later.
By the late 80s, Gang Starr had begun carving their place in hip-hop history with their debut album No More Mr. Nice Guy, 1989. The duo of Guru and DJ Premier brought a perfect balance of wisdom and raw street authenticity. Guru's monotone, thoughtful delivery paired effortlessly with Premier's signature chopped-up jazz samples and precise scratching. As the 90s unfolded, they went on an incredible run, dropping a series of albums that are now considered pure hip-hop classics. Step in the Arena, 1991, Daily Operation, 1992, Hard to Earn, 1994, and Moment of Truth, 1998. Each project showcased growth, maturity, and an unmatched chemistry between MC and DJ. Gang Starr wasn't just making dope records, they were defining an era, influencing the sound of New York hip-hop and inspiring countless producers and lyricists worldwide. Following in that same soulful lane, Pete Rock and CL Smooth emerged in the early 90s with their own brand of intelligent, jazzy hip-hop. Their debut Mecca and the Soul Brother, 1992, is often hailed as one of the greatest hip-hop albums of all time, a smooth blend of Pete Rock's lush, sample-heavy production and CL Smooth's introspective, poetic lyricism. The album birthed timeless tracks like They Reminisce Over You, TROY, a heartfelt tribute that remains one of hip-hop's most beloved songs. Pete Rock became widely known as the Remix King, crafting legendary reworks for artists like Public Enemy, House of Pain, and Run DMC, while continuing to refine a soulful production style that influenced generations of beatmakers. Both DJ Premier and Pete Rock would go on to be recognized as two of the greatest hip-hop producers of all time, shaping the golden age sound and setting the bar for what real hip-hop should feel like: raw, soulful, and authentic. And though both duos eventually parted ways, their impact on the culture is everlasting. Gang Starr and Pete Rock and CL Smooth embodied the perfect union of beats and rhymes, proving that when the right producer meets the right MC, timeless music is born.
Coming out of the Bronx in the early 90s, Showbiz and AG stand as one of the purest embodiments of New York boom bap. As a producer-MC duo, they captured the gritty essence of East Coast hip-hop with raw beats, sharp lyricism, and an authentic street perspective that has earned them deep respect across the culture. Their debut project, Soul Clap, 1992, immediately stamped their presence. The title track became a classic, an underground anthem built on heavy drums, dusty samples, and AG's smooth but commanding delivery. They followed up with acclaimed albums like Runaway Slave and Goodfellas, records that showcased their consistency, chemistry, and commitment to true school hip-hop. What made Showbiz and AG even more iconic was their role as key members of the legendary Diggin' in the Crates crew, DITC, alongside giants like Lord Finesse, Diamond D, Fat Joe, Buckwild, OC, and Big L. Their contributions helped shape the unmistakable DITC sound, raw, soulful, sample-heavy, and firmly rooted in the streets and ciphers of New York. Together, Showbiz and AG represent everything that defines East Coast hip-hop: authenticity, skill, craftsmanship, and loyalty to the culture. Their legacy lives not just in their classic albums and timeless tracks, but in the respect they continue to command among fans and artists worldwide.
Criss Cross burst onto the scene in the early 90s as one of hip-hop's youngest and most unexpected success stories. Discovered and mentored by a young Jermaine Dupri, Chris Mac Daddy Kelly and Chris Daddy Mac Smith became overnight sensations, blending kid-friendly charisma with real hip-hop energy. Dupri crafted their sound with sharp production and catchy hooks, creating the perfect platform for the duo's undeniable star quality. Their 1992 smash hit Jump didn't just make noise, it took over the world. The single spent 8 weeks at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, becoming one of the biggest hip-hop hits of the decade and a global cultural moment. With its infectious beat and youthful swagger, the track turned Criss Cross into international superstars and helped launch Jermaine Dupri's career as a hit-making producer and future mogul. Just as iconic as their music was their unforgettable back-to-front fashion style, a bold statement that became a defining trend of the early 90s. Their reverse clothing set them apart visually, instantly recognizable and heavily imitated by fans everywhere. It wasn't just a gimmick, it became a cultural phenomenon tied to their identity. Criss Cross followed their debut success with strong albums like Da Bomb and Young, Rich and Dangerous, proving they weren't just a one-hit wonder. They collaborated with artists like Da Brat, Supercat, and Aaliyah, and continued to mature their sound as they grew up. Even after the chart-topping peak, the duo remained beloved figures in hip-hop history. Though the story of Criss Cross carries tragedy with the loss of Chris Kelly in 2013, their impact is undeniable. From dominating MTV to shaping early 90s youth culture, Criss Cross remains one of hip-hop's most iconic and memorable duos, a testament to their talent, style, and the visionary guidance of Jermaine Dupri. Mobb Deep, Prodigy, and Havoc. Emerging from the legendary Queensbridge housing projects, Mobb Deep rose to prominence as teenagers who already sounded like seasoned veterans. After releasing their debut album Juvenile Hell in 1993, an early effort that showed sparks of their potential, Prodigy and Havoc regrouped, refined their style, and returned with one of the most important sonic identities in hip-hop history. Their breakthrough came in 1995 with the infamous, a defining masterpiece of East Coast hardcore hip-hop. With haunting piano loops, eerie samples, gritty drums, and razor-sharp street narratives, the album cemented Mobb Deep as the new voice of New York's underbelly. Tracks like Shook Ones Part 2 and Survival of the Fittest became instant anthems, dark, chilling, and brutally honest reflections of Queensbridge life. These records didn't just impact the streets, they reshaped the entire sound of mid-90s East Coast rap. A major part of Mobb Deep's identity was Havoc's production, which evolved into one of the most influential soundscapes in hip-hop. His minimalistic but cinematic style, filled with dusty drums and ominous melodies, defined what many fans now recognize as the quintessential Queensbridge sound. Following the infamous, they delivered another classic with Hell on Earth, 1996, a darker, more refined continuation of their signature style. With standouts like Hell on Earth, Frontlines, and G.O.D. Part 3, the album solidified their status as elite storytellers and architects of a unique sonic world, one filled with tension, paranoia, and razor-edged lyricism. Mobb Deep's legacy continued through unforgettable collaborations with artists like Nas, Raekwon, Method Man, Ghostface Killah, and The Lox, alliances that connected them to the upper tier of hip-hop greatness. Their influence spans generations, and their music remains essential to the genre's foundation. Sadly, Prodigy passed away in 2017, marking a heartbreaking loss for hip-hop. Yet his voice, writing, and impact continue to live on through Mobb Deep's timeless catalog, ensuring that their legacy remains powerful, respected, and forever ingrained in the culture.
The Dog Pound, Daz Dillinger, and Corrupt. When it comes to defining West Coast hip-hop in the 90s, few duos stand as tall as the Dog Pound. Composed of Daz Dillinger, the multi-talented producer/rapper from Long Beach, and Corrupt, the razor-sharp lyricist originally from Philadelphia who became a key figure of the West Coast scene, the Dog Pound represented the sound, style, and spirit of Death Row Records' golden era. They came up under the direct guidance of Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, and the Death Row Machine, becoming core players in the label's dominant mid-90s run. Their earliest appearances on classics like Doggy Style and Above the Rim showcased their chemistry long before their debut album dropped. The duo had a perfect balance. Daz, with his smooth but heavy G-funk production and laid-back flow. Corrupt, with his intense, high-speed delivery and unmatched lyrical sharpness. In 1995, they fully arrived with their debut album, Dog Food, which became an instant West Coast classic. Fueled by hits like Let's Play House in New York, New York, the album went multi-platinum, further cementing Death Row's run and proving that the Dog Pound could stand alongside giants like Snoop, Dre, and Tupac. New York, New York, in particular, became one of the most iconic records of the 90s, sparking conversation coast to coast during the height of the East Coast/West Coast tension. Their music captured the essence of gangster rap, vivid street storytelling, and an unmistakable West Coast swagger. Even beyond their own work, both members played major roles in shaping the era. Daz Dillinger produced or co-produced foundational West Coast tracks, including work on All Eyes on Me, making him one of the most important yet underrated producers of the 90s. Corrupt became known as one of hip-hop's most feared lyricists, influencing generations of rappers with his precision and aggression. The Dog Pound embodied the West Coast identity at a pivotal time, representing unity, loyalty, and the rebellious spirit of Death Row Records. They were more than a duo, they were part of a movement that changed the sound of hip-hop forever. And decades later, their legacy as one of the most influential and respected duos of the 90s remains intact. Outkast, the groundbreaking duo of Andre 3000 and Big Boy, rose from East Point, Atlanta as true innovators who reshaped what Southern hip-hop could be. Their debut Southern playlist to Cadillac Music introduced a fresh, soulful, player funk aesthetic while still carrying sharp lyricism and vivid storytelling. As they evolved, Outkast became known for their adventurous soundscapes, mixing live instrumentation, funk, rock, soul, and psychedelia in ways no other rap act had dared to attempt at the time. Andre 3000 quickly earned a reputation as an eccentric, unpredictable creative force, not just in his fashion, persona, or delivery, but in his writing. His poetic approach, unique flows, and willingness to take artistic risks have led many respected rappers, critics, and hip-hop fans to place him firmly in their top 5 MC lists, despite him having no traditional solo rap album. Big Boy, meanwhile, has always balanced the duo with sharp precision, slick wordplay, and a consistently elite technical skill that solidified Outkast as one of hip-hop's most perfectly balanced partnerships. Together, they delivered classics like A.T. Lean's, Quemini, Stankonia, and the diamond-selling Speakerbox / The Love Below, each project pushing boundaries and expanding Southern hip-hop's global reach. Outkast didn't just represent the South, they elevated it to the highest levels of artistry, creativity, and credibility. Their influence on music, fashion, and culture still echoes today, making them one of the most important duos in hip-hop history.
Coming straight out of Brooklyn during one of hip-hop's most competitive eras, Smooth the Hustler and Trigger the Gambler emerged as one of the most unique and dynamic duos of the mid-90s. As real-life blood brothers, their chemistry was unmatched. They went back-to-back, bounced lines off each other, flipped verses forward and backward, and traded bars with a precision and rhythm the game had never seen before. Their style was sharp, intense, and revolutionary, influencing countless artists who studied their lyrical mechanics. Their breakout moment came in 1995 with the underground smash Broken Language, a track that instantly turned heads across the East Coast. Built on a menacing beat and structured like a lyrical relay race, the song showcased both brothers at their sharpest, delivering rapid-fire street poetry that felt raw, original, and years ahead of its time. To this day, Broken Language is considered one of the most innovative duos performances of the decade. They followed up with more heat, including the street favorite My Crew Can't Go For That, which landed on the Nutty Professor soundtrack, giving the duo mainstream visibility at a time when hardcore New York hip-hop dominated the scene. Smooth went on to release his strong debut album, Once Upon a Time in America, further cementing his reputation as one of Brooklyn's hidden lyrical gems. Yet despite their undeniable chemistry and the momentum behind their name, the brothers never released a full album together as a duo. Even so, their contribution to 90s hip-hop remains significant. Their style, delivery, and the originality they brought to the mic earned them a loyal following and a respected place in the decade's lineage of hardcore lyricists. Smooth the Hustler and Trigger the Gambler may not have dropped a joint album, but their impact, especially through Broken Language, ensures they remain one of the most memorable and influential underground duos of the 90s.
Back on the East Coast, the Boot Camp Clique stood strong as one of the most respected forces in 90s hip-hop, uniting gritty duos like Smith & Wesson and Helter Skelter, along with Black Moon and OGC, forming a movement that represented real, authentic hip-hop. Smith & Wesson, Tech and Steel, made waves with Dare Shining, delivering street realism over soulful production that became a blueprint for hardcore East Coast rap. The duo would go on to become cult figures on the underground scene and respective figures in hip-hop. Meanwhile, Helter Skelter, Rock and Sean Price brought a whole new energy to the game. Their chemistry was undeniable. Rock's deep, gravelly voice paired perfectly with Sean P's sharp wit and unpredictable flows. Together, they bounced off each other with flawless timing, trading bars effortlessly and keeping listeners locked in with every line. Their style was far from ordinary. Unorthodox flows, punchline-heavy lyricism, and a creative visual approach made them stand out. They weren't afraid to experiment with dark, almost comic book-style imagery in their videos, giving fans something raw yet imaginative. Helter Skelter proved that being underground didn't mean being limited, it meant being fearless. During hip-hop's golden era, it was duos like Helter Skelter and Smith & Wesson that helped bring an extra spice and diversity to hip-hop.
Emerging from the gritty streets of Queensbridge and Lefrak City, Capone and Noriega burst onto the scene in the mid-90s as one of New York's most authentic and street-rooted duos. Their chemistry was undeniable. Capone's calm, calculated delivery paired perfectly with Noriega's raw, energetic, unpredictable flow. Together, they brought a rugged edge to East Coast hip-hop that resonated deeply with fans seeking realism, grit, and unfiltered storytelling. Their 1997 debut album, The War Report, became an instant classic. Packed with hard-hitting production and vivid lyrical imagery, it captured the chaos, paranoia, and survival mindset of street life in a way few albums had before. Tracks like T.O.N.Y., Illegal Life, and L.A. helped define the sound of late 90s New York, while their unique slang and militant aesthetic set them apart from their peers. The War Report didn't just put them on the map, it cemented them as major players in the hardcore hip-hop scene. However, their momentum was quickly challenged. Capone's recurring legal troubles, including a weapons possession charge, resulted in him being locked up shortly after the album's success. This forced Noriega to carry the torch on his own, and he did so impressively. While the duo dropped follow-up material like The Reunion, much of the late 90s and early 2000s spotlight was on Nori, who evolved into a star in his own right. Noriega's solo career soared with hits like Superthug, Nothing, and his reggaeton work during the early movement's rise. Yet his influence didn't stop at music. He later became one of the defining faces of the podcast era. As the co-creator and host of Drink Champs, Noriega reinvented himself entirely, building one of hip-hop's most important platforms and playing a major role in preserving the culture through storytelling and interviews with rap legends. Although their partnership was often interrupted by circumstances, Capone and Noriega's impact remains undeniable. They brought a raw, uncompromising perspective to East Coast hip-hop and left behind a legacy rooted in authenticity, originality, and street-level truth.
MOP, Mashup Posse. Hailing from Brownsville, Brooklyn, one of the toughest neighborhoods in New York City, MOP carved out their own lane as one of hip-hop's most powerful and aggressive duos. Made up of Lil Fame and Billy Donza, they brought a raw, explosive energy to the mic, delivering high-intensity street anthems that stood out even in an era known for hardcore lyricism. Their voices, their chemistry, and their unfiltered street perspective made MOP impossible to ignore. From the moment they arrived in the early 90s, MOP built a reputation for making some of the hardest music in hip-hop. They blessed the culture with classics like How About Some Hardcore, Cold as Ice, and of course, the iconic Ante Up. The latter became an anthem across the world, an explosive track that still shuts down clubs, gyms, and stages decades later. Their collaborations also added to their legendary status. They linked with Kool G Rap, one of the greatest lyricists ever, on the underground favorite Stick to Your Guns, creating one of the grittiest street records of the 90s. And when MOP dropped the Ante Up remix, featuring Busta Rhymes and Remy Ma, they delivered one of the most electrifying posse cuts of all time, pure adrenaline from start to finish. Despite being a hardcore act, MOP managed to create timeless club bangers, proving that raw street energy could also be wildly commercial without ever compromising authenticity. Their signature yelling, the chemistry between Fame and Donza, and the relentless production behind them all combined to form a sound that was unmistakably theirs. MOP didn't just represent Brooklyn, they represented the raw, unpolished spirit of 90s hip-hop. And through their influence, their longevity, and their unforgettable anthems, they remain one of the most respected and impactful duos in rap history. Group Home. Coming straight out of New York City, Group Home emerged in the mid-90s as one of the rawest and most authentic duos to represent East Coast boom bap. Made up of Lil Dap and Malachi the Nutcracker, the duo became closely associated with the Gang Starr Foundation, embodying the gritty, no-frills street realism that defined the era. Their 1995 debut album Livin' Proof is widely regarded as a cult classic of 90s hip-hop. Powered almost entirely by production from DJ Premier, the album delivered a stripped-down, hard-edged sound that perfectly matched Group Home's unpolished, street-level lyricism. Tracks like Livin' Proof and Up Against the Wall, Getaway Car Mix, captured the raw essence of New York life, free of gimmicks or commercial polish. Lil Dap and Malachi's chemistry was rooted in authenticity rather than flash, trading verses with a grounded, conversational flow that felt like real street dialogue over classic boom bap drums. While their style was often debated by critics, their honesty, grit, and alignment with Premier's legendary production earned them deep respect among true hip-hop heads. Group Home may not have chased mainstream success, but their impact is undeniable. They represent a pure moment in 90s hip-hop history, when raw beats, street knowledge, and unfiltered energy mattered most. As a duo, they remain an essential part of the East Coast legacy and a vital chapter in the story of golden era hip-hop.
By the late 90s, hip-hop saw the formation of one of its most beloved duos, Redman and Method Man. Both artists were already established legends, Redman with his raw Newark funk and Method Man as the standout personality from Staten Island's Wu-Tang Clan, yet despite coming from different cities and crews, their connection was instant. Their natural bond and on-screen charisma made their partnership feel effortless, with a unique chemistry that blended lyrical skill, comedic timing, and unapologetic weed-infused vibes. Their 1999 collaborative album Blackout was a fan favorite, filled with punchy bars, booming production, and infectious energy. It showed that these two weren't just putting out a gimmick, they were genuinely one of the most entertaining and cohesive duos in the game. Their follow-up, Blackout 2, 2009, proved their chemistry was timeless. Outside the booth, the duo's popularity exploded with their cult classic stoner comedy How High in 2001, showing off their natural comedic chops and cementing their status as hip-hop's ultimate tag team. From Def Jam video game cameos to starring in the TV sitcom Method in Red, their appeal crossed over into pop culture, without ever compromising their roots. When it comes to unofficial duos in hip-hop, few partnerships feel as natural and powerful as Raekwon and Ghostface Killah. Both hailing from Staten Island, but from different and sometimes conflicting neighborhoods, their bond wasn't guaranteed from the start. Yet once they came together as part of the Wu-Tang Clan, that tension transformed into brotherhood, fueling one of the most authentic and electrifying partnerships the culture has ever seen. Their chemistry truly came to life on Raekwon's 1995 classic Only Built for Cuban Links, where Ghostface appeared throughout the album almost as a co-star. His presence was so strong that the project felt like a duo album, with both MCs trading vivid street narratives, slang-heavy bars, and cinematic storytelling that helped define the mafioso rap era. Tracks like Criminology, Ice Cream, and Heaven and Hell showcase their seamless back and forth, painting detailed pictures of street life with unmatched realism. The bond only deepened when Ghostface returned the favor on his debut Iron Man, 1996, with Raekwon playing a major role across the album. Once again, their chemistry was undeniable, two distinct voices, two different styles, but perfectly aligned in rhythm, energy, and storytelling. Together, Ray and Ghost blurred the lines between group members and duo partners. Their connection, consistency, and ability to elevate each other on every track cemented them as one of hip-hop's dopest unofficial duos, a partnership built on loyalty, lyrical excellence, and timeless street poetry.
When it comes to unofficial duos built on pure lyricism and street credibility, few can match the chemistry of Styles P and Jadakiss. As core members of the Lox and founders of D-Block, their bond was forged early, but it's when they go back-to-back on records that their connection truly shines. Two distinct styles, Jadakiss with his sharp punchlines, signature rasp, and effortless delivery, and Styles P with his gritty realism, introspection, and raw street energy, combined to create one of the most balanced lyrical partnerships in hip-hop. Coming out of Yonkers, their music has always reflected authenticity, struggle, and survival. Whether it's Lox classics, D-Block records, or countless features and freestyles, Kiss and Styles have consistently pushed each other to higher levels, feeding off each other's energy with a natural rhythm that feels almost telepathic. Tracks like We Gonna Make It stand as timeless anthems, real, motivational, and deeply rooted in street experience. With over 30 years in the game, their longevity speaks volumes. They've remained relevant across eras, never compromising their style or message, and continue to be respected by both their peers and the new generation. Their Versus performance further reminded the world of their dominance, showing that their chemistry, catalog, and presence are still elite. Styles P and Jadakiss aren't just rappers, they're certified street poets, and together, they form one of hip-hop's most respected unofficial duos, built on loyalty, bars, and undeniable credibility.